Hey everybody, it's John from Lifesize. I'm here again for another leadership conversation. And with me today, I have a very special guest, John Winterbottom from Brock University. John, how you doing?
Good, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks for asking. I got to start by asking you, where is this lovely scene that I am finding you in today?
I don't know if you're talking about the painting behind me, but that was Dominican Republic, but I'm just in my house in St. Catharines, Ontario. Hoping my kids don't barge up through the door from the basement.
I may have a 5-year-old join us some point in this conversation as well.
Yeah.
How are things in Ontario these days?
Pretty good. I mean, we're managing, considering the circumstances, but you know, we're dealing with what we're dealing with, right?
Right. I think that's true for many people right now. Well, in preparation for our conversation, I did a little digging on your background, and the first thing that caught my eye is that you have been with Brock University for nearly 19 years. It looked like 19 years as of July this summer sometime. So you got to tell me first and foremost, what is it that's so compelling about Brock University that's kept you there for so long?
Well, it's a real community. So some of the people that I've worked with, I've been with for almost half my life, right? So obviously, if I didn't enjoy where I am, I wouldn't be there, right? So I've grown up with what I work with. I started in high school. I was doing a co-op in high school at Brock, and I managed to get a position there, not too long after high school, and I love working there.
As someone who's still living in the town where they went to college, I definitely understand the pull of staying close to a university that you love. Well, tell me a little bit more about your role. What is it that you do specifically at Brock University?
My title at Brock is the video conferencing technologist. I work in the Information Technology Services Department, part of the infrastructure department, which is audiovisual department. So, setting up classroom technology. But I specifically, in my department, take care of, video collaboration, different tools that people use. And I'm the administrator for our Lifesize account at Brock.
Well, going back a little bit into history, can you tell me a little bit about what a day in your life would have looked like maybe in the fall of last year? What would some of your day-to-day responsibilities have been?
Well, my job requires a lot of face-to-face interaction, doing physical setups in rooms, in our conference rooms and things like that. So I interact with a lot of people on a daily basis, setting up events for people. So obviously it's quite a drastic change from doing that to being at home, right? So I can't just run to somebody's office to go and fix something, more remote collaboration.
And were you using video in any type of scalable way at the university, either for educators to speak to students or for internal communication? What did that look like 6 months ago?
Yeah, I mean, we use it for a mixture of things. Primarily, we use Lifesize for, master's and PhD defenses where we have to bring in external members to, thesis defenses, experts in different fields. We do use it for classes and things of that nature, like virtual office hours. A lot of faculty use it for that. So, I mean, it was being used heavily back then, and of course, that's changed quite a bit now.
Yeah, and I kind of skipped over this at the top of the call, but tell me a little bit more about the university itself. How large is the student body? How many educators are you and your team supporting? What should we know about Brock University at large?
Yeah, so I support the entire faculty and staff. So we have kind of a shared resource with our Lifesize account where everybody at the university can use it. We have just under, I believe, if I'm accurate, just under 20,000 students at Brock. We're located, I don't know if anyone knows where Brock is, but we're located in the Niagara region. So I usually say we're about 15 minutes away from Niagara Falls and just under an hour and a half drive from Toronto.
And still cold this time of year, I imagine.
Well, past few days it's been cold, but it's been hit and miss. Sometimes it's been actually pretty nice. The other thing that's unique about Brock that I forgot to mention is we're one of the few universities that's located at UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. So we're right on the escarpment in St. Catharines, between the border between St. Catharines and Thorold. And that escarpment goes all the way from like Niagara Falls, all the way up north to about Georgian Bay. So it's a pretty unique ecosystem that we're in.
Yeah, sounds like a very beautiful part of Canada as well. Well, John, part of the reason for today's conversation is to talk a little bit more about how the coronavirus is impacting universities. There's obviously been a tremendous amount of media coverage of the significant changes that have been made, both in the K through 12, primary school educators that are now teaching classes online for the first time. And I know there's been significant impacts virtually every higher education university setting as well. So tell us a little bit about what that looked like at Brock. When was the decision made to stop in-person, face-to-face classes and to sort of fundamentally shift the way that the university operates?
Yeah, so I think somewhere around March 12th, 13th, something like that, where the university announced that they were ending face-to-face classes. And then really quickly after that, they started developing a plan to resume the term, but push everything to an online component. So we had just over a week, maybe 8 or 9 days for faculty to move their classes in some way, shape, or form to an online environment, whether that was video-based or just text-based with slides in a learning management system and communication with students, whether that be with chat or video and that type of thing. So, I mean, it was a tall order. I kind of had some concerns about it, making sure everything was going to go well. But I've been actually quite happy with the way things have gone. It's been pretty smooth, to be honest with you.
Well, tell me about that morning when you get the call. Did you expect that something was going to happen? Were you already sort of aware that this change was going to be made? Or did you get a phone call and realize that your day-to-day, your work was going to be very urgent all of a sudden?
Yeah, I mean, there was an email sent out to all of us saying that the university had ended face-to-face classes. And then, like I said, just not too long after that, they announced it was going to be online. And they gave us a week to offer some tools for different faculty to use. So yeah, I want to say that I was cool as a cucumber, but I wasn't. It was pretty stressful. We have a few tools that people can use, but managing that on a large scale was a little worrisome. But as I mentioned, it's actually gone relatively smoothly.
Well, one thing you mentioned to me before we started recording today's call is that you have a relatively small team, and it's represented in your title. You're the video conferencing technologist. You are the guy that I would imagine most of your colleagues look to as the subject matter expert. So when all in-person communication now becomes what we're doing today, it's video-based communication, what does that look like? How do you accommodate now getting inbound requests from dozens, if not hundreds, of more people than you would have otherwise been speaking to about these technologies?
Yeah, a lot of emails in my inbox. I'll give you that. So in our AV department, there's about 6 of us. But then as part of IT, we're a larger organization. But specifically with Lifesize, I'm the go-to person. So I mean, we do have an email that can filter down to all of us in our AV department, but just because I had been dealing with different faculty, they know that I'm the person that they need to contact. So I was getting a lot of direct emails on how to use Lifesize and how to start using it, things like that. But yeah, it is what it is, right? You have to help where you can.
That's a great attitude. I'm curious if you can speak a little bit about what the conversations have been like with educators. Did you get the sense that people were comfortable with these technologies and had an idea for how they were going to translate coursework or translate their jobs to remote communication? What has that interaction been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, the attitude's been pretty good. I kind of expected there to be a lot of, some frustration, not knowing what to do. A lot of people here have been pretty good about it, wanting to learn how they can continue on with their classes. I mean, you can't just end the term, right? Students have to either graduate or finish off their course. So I'm sure all felt a responsibility to try and make do with what we had, right?
Taking a step back from video, as part of the leadership team that's making these decisions for an entire organization serving a student body population that you mentioned is it's 20,000, it's a very large number of people. What have been some of the guiding principles and goals for the university itself about how to continue providing services and being able to fulfill its promise to the student body population? What have been some of the things that have been sort of guiding your decisions and how you've been going about solving some of these technology challenges?
Yeah, I mean, our key has been, it's all about the students, right? Making sure the students have, a satisfactory rest of the term, right? So that's where we place all our goals off of that, right? So we need to make the experience something positive, even though we're dealing with some issues, right?
So if I remember correctly, you're just finishing your fall term and you're now just starting your spring term. What happens after that? What are the go forward plans, at least today in mid-April? What is the assumption about what changes, what returns back to normal later this year?
Yeah, so just after finishing the term, that it's been slow, but it has died down a little bit. My inbox, I can actually go through and go through some of the emails that I've missed. But we're ramping up for the spring term, which has already been committed to going online. The summer term as well. Fall is up in the air. We don't know how fall is gonna work out right now. But we've got a pretty good leap ahead of us, being able to finish off the term using Lifesize and different tools. So we're hoping there'll be some familiarity at this point now with the different services that we offer. It'll be a little bit less of a learning curve for people, but I'm trying to clear out my inbox for more emails to come in.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, it's the calm before the storm.
Yeah.
What can you share about the usage of Lifesize specifically, comparing sort of the fall semester versus kind of current state of usage?
Yeah, so usage has always been growing year over year. We're kind of in the 15, 20, 30% range year over year. We're increasing video traffic. But I mean, when the university shut down face-to-face classes, we went from maybe 100 calls a day to easily 1,000 calls a day. At the most, we did about 2,000 on several days throughout March. We had about 2,000 calls a day. But yeah, we sort of skyrocketed. I kind of looked at some of the charts, and it was just a straight line up. Really, surprising the few calls that I got about people having issues. It was actually really impressive that we're able to do what we did. And I'm thinking, a few years back when we had on-prem solutions, we'd never be able to do what we've done this semester with servers on campus and them being overloaded and things like that, having a limited amount of capacity. I'm really glad we switched to cloud-based infrastructure on a few of the tools that we have, because we would have been in trouble.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you made that change as well. So before I get you out of here, a couple of just final questions. For you personally, as a leader that has a tremendous track record and history supporting a large university, what have you personally learned over the last several weeks going through this unprecedented change and this health crisis that's impacting all of us?
I mean, people are pretty resilient, right? I've seen that just with some of the faculty and staff that I've dealt with. You go from having everyone's on campus to everyone dealing with their own network connections, the hardware that they have at home, things like that. It's not always perfect, but people are willing to make it work or do their best to try and get things working. So just committed to making things successful, right? And that's kind of what I learned. It's been going, as I said, pretty smoothly, and people are pretty accommodating with the circumstances.
And for other universities or other educational organizations that are going through similar challenges right now, or perhaps trying to make longer term plans for the summer term or into the fall, what advice would you offer to them based on your experience?
To take a deep breath, right? That's all I can say, right? Just the best you can, right? With the hand you're dealt, right? So.
Well, John, thank you so much for the time today. We really appreciate it, and best of luck to you and your entire team, both for your spring semester and as you get into the summer. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.